Hello and welcome once more to Signs and Wonders. In some of my recent mystical wisdom blogs, which I hope you've been following, I was talking about archetypes and how we can look at the archetypes in relation to angels and to astrology and to Kabbalah. So today I thought I would talk a little bit more around that topic because it's very, very useful to us to get to know the archetypes that are mostly present themselves in our own lives, right? So each archetype in astrology is connected to a planet, and each planet represents a potential in us. And on their own, without any colouring from the zodiac, the planets represent certain kinds of drives or desires or intentionalities that all human beings have. We all have the desire and the need to be loved. That's Venus. We all have the desire and the need to be nurtured. That's the Moon. We all have the desire or the need to succeed, go out, get what we want. That's Mars. So there we can just see some of the basics. When it comes to overlaying that with angels, of course, that's a very particular religious perspective, which comes later, really. Or I suppose, technically speaking, you could say that the idea that the different planets were like gods, were divinities, does go back to Babylon. And then later on with Hellenistic astrology, they get associated with particular gods like Venus, Mars, and so on. But the notion that they may have an angelic intelligence, which is a kind of divinity, is peculiar to the Jewish system, the Jewish mystical system called Kabbalah. And it's quite an elaborate system, so it takes quite a lot of unpicking. But I think you can take some very simple strands from it, which is what I hope to do in my classes, and make them helpful for us in self-understanding and something that's appropriate for the modern day as well. So when we take that Jewish perspective, that the planets are not gods, but they are aspects of divinity. They have different qualities that are divine, but they are not separate individual gods with their own powers. They're all integrated into some kind of system, which is what you see in the Tree of Life. Then we can communicate, or we can go on our inner journeys, our imaginal inner visions, to have conversations with those potentials, using the archangels as our connector. Sometimes they're called the guardians of the gates of light. And so a guardian will help you, or may actually repel you sometimes if they think that you're not quite ready to do this. Now, when we take that approach, the angels are no longer just some kind of Victorian Christian pretty lady with blonde hair and a white frock. The angels then become archetypal powers. And those archetypal powers are going to assist you on your way. And they may not necessarily be sweet and pretty. They may be tough cookies who are quite severe. And we can use that word severe because it turns up in the Kabbalah. Severity of God and the compassion of God and the healing of God and the righteousness of God. Those are all names that are given to the Sephirot on the tree of life and the archangels that manage those Sephirots, which is sometimes called gates of light, guardians of the gates of light. So your spiritual journey is about getting to know the guardians of the gates of light and how they can support you in bringing out the best of your personal potential, your individual potential. So you can combine some astrological wisdom, which tells you, which were the archetypes, the planets, the angels that were important for you in this life because of the particular time and place and date that you were born. And in old astrological language, for example, we have the idea that there is a Lord of the Nativity. And that Lord of the Nativity is often regarded as the planet that rules the ascending sign. So you have to know what time you were born to find out the Lord, or roughly. I'll give you an example. My ascending sign is Sagittarius. So the Lord that I need to know about is Jupiter, because Jupiter rules the sign of Sagittarius. Jupiter and Sagittarius have that relationship. So I look to Jupiter. In angelic language, Jupiter is Zadkiel. In fact, Zadeh is the name for Jupiter in Hebrew. So Zadkiel translated means the righteousness of God. And if you saw in earlier Signs and Wonders where I was talking about this little magic letter Tz, you will know also that Zad has got that letter in it. So when you read the word Zadkiel, sometimes it'll be TZ, and sometimes it will be TS, and sometimes it'll just be a Z. Zadkiel. And the righteousness is not some kind of goody-goody kind of holier than thou kind of stuff. It's doing things right, doing things correctly. And that goes back to an earlier Signs and Wonders. I hope you didn't miss it, which was about mitzvot, about the commands. So you can see how we can take the connection between an archangel and a planet and a birth chart. So it's really helpful if you can find out at least roughly what time you were born and get an estimate on what sign was there. There are 30 degrees for each sign, so that's quite a big window of error that you could find out. So your parents may say, oh, you were born when Dad was making the lunch or something. So you think, oh, that's about 1 o'clock, just after midday perhaps. And you can play around with the chart. But hopefully you can find out something a bit more accurate than that. If you at least know what the sign was rising, then you know what the ruler of the chart is. So we come back to this combination of archetypes, astrology, birth charts, angelic intelligences to work with. And they can, in that combination, that can be a really useful spiritual tool, right? What are you going to do in life if, like me, Jupiter is the ruler of the nativity, the Lord of the Nativity? Well, there are more layers to astrology. As it happens in my own chart, Jupiter is in what is called the ninth house, the ninth mansion, I call it, in grounding your life purpose. And there's a whole load of spiritual and religious stuff connected with that house, the house of vision. So find out, if you can, roughly what time of day you were born. Go to any online astrological calculator. There's Astro Theme, there's Astro-Seek, and there are quite a lot of internet assistance around, so you can find out the ruler of your rising sign, the lord of your nativity, and then check out which archangel will manage that. And I'll give you some more information about the archangels and those planets in another video.